Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says that Democrats are holding things up.
We are moving toward a vote today. And look, the 20 hours doesn't worry me because it's just the Democrats trying to obstruct this one big, beautiful bill. President Trump has incredible momentum from the border to Israel, Iran. Now we're going to bring it home on the tax bill, and then we'll do trade next week. It's just the Democrats trying to stop the president's momentum.
I think we're up to 25 hours now. And the president turning up the heat, warning that 68% of Americans will get a tax increase if the bill fails to pass, calling it perhaps the most important bill in American history. But the margin is razor thin, and the fiscal hawks are circling. VP Vance is working on the Hill right now. We're going to see if the MAGA agenda gets another major win or if Washington strikes back. We're looking at a Dow, Kenny, that's up 400 and change at the moment. You've got a different situation with the U.S. dollar and with treasuries, but the market is confident that this is a good thing and it will pass.
Well, the market's confident that it's going to pass, I think, right? And the Dow, because if you look at the S&P, I think the S&P is flat, isn't it? Or is the S&P down a little bit? It's a little bit negative. But the Dow certainly is telling you that it thinks it's going to pass. I'd like to see that it pass and we move on. I'm afraid, though, it's going to hit some other snags.
Okay, and we're talking about this vote that's taking place right now. My understanding is they went back and forth with Murkowski, but she is on team pass this bill. They're allowed to lose 3 votes, and then VP Vance would cast the tiebreaker.
They just need to flip Murkowski. That's it, because then Vance becomes the tiebreaker. The big thing, I think, for Murkowski has been just, you know, Medicaid and the amount of cuts that will come to Medicaid. She doesn't think she can sell that to her people. She doesn't want to sell that to her constituents. You know, okay, but then other senators are going to say, well, if you get that, then I want this, and so on and so on. But if they found a compromise, I think that is the final piece.
And really some say the cuts to Medicaid aren't enough, Dagan, but yet you have Chuck Schumer saying to all these people, you're going to basically lose your coverage, people are going to die. This is, you know, a totally explosive situation.
Lisa Murkowski, what she has been able to extract for her state in giveaways is embarrassing. Like somebody said to me yesterday, you know, she's always flirted with being an independent and leaving the Republican Party. But why would you leave the Republican Party if they hand out gifts like this? Yeah. You want to listen?
I believe it passed. I just want to, okay, it did pass, so I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just...
Do we want to listen to Vice President VP Vance?
Let us pray. Eternal, ever-blessed God, help our senators
we just
to
missed
walk.
VP Vance and a quick comment that it looks like he made there, but the final vote took place on the big, beautiful bill. It has passed.
So we were talking about to get Lisa Murkowski on board. I could go into the details of all of the giveaways that senator was able to extract, but it's embarrassing, and it is lunchtime, and I don't want to make you nauseated. It goes back to the House now, and it wasn't just she's upset about Medicaid. Nothing. The major changes to Medicaid didn't even happen.
Right.
They didn't change how much the federal government hands out. Dollar for dollar, $9 for every dollar that a state spends for the Obamacare Medicaid expansion. $9 for a healthy, adult, able-bodied dude or chick. $1.33 for every dollar for someone who's disabled. They didn't change that. Rick Scott tried to change it. I digress. But there are enough people in the House Freedom Caucus who are angry about how much money was spent, excess money was spent. It is well above the baseline. It is hundreds of billions of dollars above the baseline that the House handed them in their bill.
So what happens now, Dagan? It goes back to the House.
How do you square that?
How do you square it? Yeah.
They have to change it.
Right.
That's why I don't
Yes.
think it gets passed by July 14th.
Yeah, see, I don't think it does either. I think it's going to stall somewhere.
When I asked you about the markets, I also brought up treasuries and the dollar. And Taylor, I want to come to you on that because while the Dow might be confident about the passage of the bill and what's in it and that it's good for the country, we're seeing a different picture in yields and also in the dollar index. And I'm thinking to myself, part of that could have to do with Powell and the potential for not cutting rates in July. Maybe there was a small percentage chance that he would consider that. But part of it also has to do with confidence in general.
Yes, and I would also, Kenny, I always agree with you. You're one of the smartest in the room, but we hit a record on the S&P 500 yesterday. So the fact that we're only off about 12 points today, to me, isn't like a big signal that we're worried about this. It may take longer than July 4, but I think the market is actually really optimistic. Most of the notes I've read, and feel free to disagree with me, second half of the year is boom time for equities, for the economy, for all of the above. Wedbush, the latest out, saying big tech rallies 10% in the second half of this year alone because AI and the momentum of all of this. And that's not even really getting the nitty-gritty details of the big, beautiful bill. Jackie, let's talk about the 10-year. You're at a 427. That's low. Remember when we were like above 4.5 and we were all getting really nervous? You have a 30-year that's at a 480, nowhere near 5%. So I agree that yields are up a little bit today, a couple basis points, but overall this has been a market that has really been taking this in stride. When you think about a 10-year or a 30-year trying to price in deficits and debt and this big, beautiful bill, and what does that mean? And I'm assuming that the good news is yields are calm and stable because we talk about scary charts from the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget or scary charts from the CBO that say 7% deficits and Scott Bassett wanted 3%. But that's discounting the growth story that we've often so talked about on this program, where if you get 3.5% GDP, that means debt to GDP ratios go down. Deficit as a percent of GDP goes down, if, again, assuming that GDP grows. So I think the markets are trying to look at this and think about the growth story as well. Right. And then,
but the big thing that you said is the if. And that's the part that you can't touch and you can't feel. You can project it, you can hope for it, you can predict it.
Can I just add one thing that was added to this bill, and it's passed 5150, so J.D. Vance was the tiebreaker, the vice president. The SNAP carve-out, so these are, this is
food stamps.
Food stamps. Thank you. I love how the British gentleman over here has to redneck speak for me. The SNAP carve-out, the food stamp carve-out, intended just for Lisa Murkowski, Alaska, that is coming together in the big, beautiful bill. This is from Paul Winfrey. Would literally reward all states who can get their payment error rates above 13% by delaying the work requirements. It literally encourages waste, fraud, and abuse. That's what they offered up to get Lisa Murkowski to vote for it. I'm assuming the no's were Rand Paul, Tillis, and then Susan Collins.
Yep.
And that's it.
I just want to get back to the growth story with you, Kenny, for a second. 3 to 3.5% GDP growth. It's possible, certainly under this formula. The tax cuts help stimulate that for people, for individuals, consumers, which are 2/3 of our economy, but also for businesses. But it's the part that you can't touch.
That's right. Right, and
until
so,
it happens.
Right, it's the unknown at the moment. To your point, right? So I think it very well can happen. We've seen it. We saw what the Atlanta GDP is forecasting. So I'm very much in the camp that if the second half of the year turns out to be as good as everyone thinks it is, analysts and strategists, that we can certainly make that.
You know what hurts growth? Spending $1.2 trillion on interest every year.
Right. 100%. Which is
get the rates down.
So it hasn't fully passed yet. It has not been signed into law. But this Senate bill, as was written, $5 trillion increase in the debt ceiling. That's why Rand Paul, the senator, did not vote for it. The Treasury Department, if it passes, will immediately borrow $1 trillion to replenish its cash account. On top of that, it has to refinance $7 trillion plus in debt in the next year.
Rolling over.
Yeah.
Right. So we're going to have $38 trillion in debt by September. And is the market going to digest that? Is the market going to step up? Because we're staring at, I'm being nice about this, but the 10-year yield, 4.25, it really hasn't budged. It should be lower. It's not, because of the inflation risk and because of the recklessness of spending.
Right.
Because investors are sitting back going, I'm not gonna, it's why Treasury Secretary Jeff Bessent yesterday admitted that they're not going to right-size the maturity schedule right now, extending the maturity schedule to the 10-year, because he thinks the 10-year yield's too high by one standard deviation. So that's a full percentage point. But investors won't loan the federal government money because of the interest rate risk at 4.25.
Which means if they try to go and refinance, so much supply is going to come to the market, the investors, the buyers are going to pull back. And that's going to cause those rates to go higher.
So they have to keep it at the short end. That's why Jay Powell is under pressure to lower short-term interest rates. My point is that we're on a razor's edge.
I agree.
And these Republicans are on a razor's edge of screwing the pooch. Because $5 trillion increase in the debt ceiling, and they cut spending, but not enough.
Nope.
And they spent a hell of a lot of money that didn't need to get spent.
But then we have Larry Kudlow come on our show, and he'll say, I don't love some of the spending that we've seen, but the growth will fix the spending. I'm not worried about it. That's just the devil's advocate argument.
Right.
Yeah. Mike Johnson in the House sounded very sobering and honest maybe 3 weeks ago when he sort of begged the Senate, don't make a lot of changes, because what we did in the House the first time was like as good as we could get. So that's where I think all of these ideas are going to come and hit him, later today or tomorrow or whenever the House decides to look at this, is does this have the appetite in the House? Or does Mike Johnson have room to continue to move her?
It does not.
This does not.
Right.
And that's could be the issue.
I don't think it makes it to the desk by July 4th.
I mean, that's Friday,
Right.
guys.
That's Friday.
That's Friday.
Right. And they're already starting. Somebody said it. I forget who it was. They were already starting to play that down, saying, "Well, that was a really hard and fast date, the middle of the month."
Right. And even Trump said, if it takes a little longer, it's okay. But we just want to be in that ballpark.
Right.
But to me, it looks like the Senate version is so different than the House version that the House has to say, "We're rewriting it again."
Right.
Yeah, it really is. They're not going to go for a lot of these provisions. There's just no way. The Senate bill is so much bigger and is bigger than the House version. Can they meet halfway? I don't know. I don't know how many House members are prepared to do that.
I'm sure some of the Republicans who voted on it or for it in the Senate don't even know what's in it.
It's 1,000 pages. And this is what I love. When it comes at least to the Democrats, they're always saying, pass the 1,000-page bill and read it later. But we had to talk about it for 25 hours last night before anybody could start,
That was a
voting.
Nancy Pelosi quote when she said, we have to pass it first to understand what's in it. Are you kidding?
Don't get me wrong. These tax cuts needed to be made permanent.
Yeah.
Yes.
The Democrats, and the headline should be, every single Democrat in the Senate just voted to raise your taxes.
Yep.
Every single Democrat in the Senate just voted for the biggest tax hike in American history. That's what they stand for. They stand for crushing the working man and crushing the working woman. For what? Because they're anti-Trump. And that's the end of it.
And can I quantify that for you? The average tax increase would be anywhere from 7 to 8%. And I was making the point earlier this morning that while the rate of inflation has slowed, yes, and that's a good thing because prices don't just keep going higher, the price increases, many of them that we saw, are stuck there. The price of a cup of coffee went up and it really never came down. So people are struggling still to make ends meet. And that's why these tax cuts matter. Because at the end of the day, it's about household budgeting. Your wages didn't go up enough to keep up with the amount that prices did go up. And so people cannot afford that. And basically, at the end of the day, if they don't get this tax break, you're going to pay out of pocket. Like,
Right.
households don't have that kind of wiggle room.
Nope.
Every single Democrat wants you to pay taxes on your tips. Every
Right.
single Democrat wants you to pay taxes on your, don't want you to get a break on your Social Security income. Every single Democrat wants you to pay taxes on your overtime because they don't give a flying damn about the working man and woman. Or anybody,
And this is
quite
the
frankly,
party for the
anybody
working
but
man
them.
and woman.
They don't care about anybody but themselves. I'm going to shut up.
No.
But
I was just going
Go
to have
ahead.
some fun, and if you want to have some fun,
Well-
Elon Musk is out over the weekend and is sort of coming back out and highlighting the
Not
debt
sort
and the
of. He's
deficit
coming out.
issue again. So he had been very quiet, and I think a lot of people agree you have to pass the bill. Don't let perfect get in the way of good. This is good enough, even though it's not perfect.
Right.
But he is absolutely continuing to make the case that the spending cuts aren't good enough, that the deficit numbers aren't good enough.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of people look at that and also sometimes feel sympathy towards that point of view of, I voted for a little bit more. Therein lies the rub.
He's your Doge guy, so he's
Yeah.
the one who, took the chainsaw out and tried to find places to trim the fat. So he looks at this, and that's his view. And I'm not saying that that's not wrong, that it is wrong. It's not.
the tell about concern from investors about the long-term fiscal picture of the United States and inflation is your 30-year. So it's close, still pretty close to 5%, 4.8%. If investors thought inflation was going down to 2%, they'd be all over that yield because that would be a 3% long-term real return. 3% for 30 years is doggone good. But they are not willing.
And
I mean,
treasuries.
and the very fact that the Treasury Department is not issuing new debt at that duration or at that maturity is evidence that there's just not demand out
appetite.
there for it.
And treasuries aren't taxed the same way equities
That's
are
true.
with capital gains. So really, your return is typically even a little bit higher than what you would expect it to be, with the risk that you'd have to take to be in the equity market, which people are buying up today.
When I say risk, the risk is that there's an event that those rates skyrocket, and then it gets away from you. You meaning the federal government, and then they can't, and it becomes the death spiral. And it's just part of the discussion right now.
It's a lot of doom and gloom.
Well, you know, we're
it's also reality.
We are paying out in interest every year more than we spend on every other budget item.
I know,
except
that's-
Social Security.
That's more than
Except Social
disturbing.
Security. Interest.
Right. But
And that's a suck.
again, I
on
go
the
back to
economy.
Jenny Yellen had the opportunity to finance that at long-term rates at 1 3/4, 1.8% in 20 and 21 when rates were near zero. She could have refinanced the long-term debt at 30-year rates at that rate and chose not to.